Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here, and welcome to my September and October reading wrap up. Now this video, a few things are different. I have once again cut my hair. Two, there is no like posters on the wall, books are gone. I'm in the process of moving, so I'm very sorry for the state of my room, that it's a very boring background, my bed's not made. I'm quite literally in the process of moving. I'm packing all my stuff up, so everything's just everywhere. But I did want to get this video out not that far into November, so it's actually on time. So welcome to my September and October reading wrap up. I didn't read as much as I wanted to, but that's all right. The first book I finished in September was Late Bloomer by Maisie Eddings. This is a sapphic romance novel, and I genuinely remember reading this and absolutely loving it. Basically, in Late Bloomer, you follow Opal. She wins the lottery, and just to escape everyone now like attaching themselves to her and trying to be like all bestie with her, she on a whim spends all her money and buys a flower farm in a small town where she meets the daughter of the person who sold the flower farm to her, and they do not start off on the best terms because the daughter did not know that her mom was selling the flower farm. You get this kind of tension of, why are you here? I don't want you being here. And then the other person being like, I didn't know, but I want to make this work. And they come together to make sure that the flower farm actually stays in business and is able to thrive. Basic gist of the book, but I absolutely loved it. For me, it was a 4.5 stars. Devoured it so much. I have really been liking reading more and getting more into some sapphic novels. I will say there is kind of like a third act conflict in this that really peeved me off. Like, that is the sole reason that this is not a 5 stars. This was a 5-star book like the entire time I was reading it until that point. It was not fun. Did not enjoy it. It felt really out of character, and just like it felt like it was placed in there just to have a conflict where there really did not need to be one. And yeah, like I said, it was just super out of character for this person. But I really enjoyed the writing of it. As you can tell, the rating was so high. I know a friend of mine recently read it as well, and she gave it a 5 stars. And she's a really harsh critic, so the fact that she gave it a 5 stars I think is really speaking to how good this book is. The second book I completed in the month of September was Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. I finally bit the bullet and read this book. I ended up doing a buddy read with my best friend Libby for this book, and we both absolutely loved it. And like, she's a chunky book. Like, my friend Libby loves to read, but like it's hard for her to like find the time to read or like really just sit down and invest into a book. So the fact that she chose this one to buddy read with me, props to her. But she also really loved it. This one was also a 4.5 stars for me. I can now understand why people would say it's kind of Wattpad vibes, like it is, but I genuinely love that. I loved the fact that it was Wattpad vibes. Like, it felt really nostalgic to read. Absolutely loved it. I was also the person going into this book being like, why the hell is it so big? Like, what could you possibly have to say about a romance that requires this much? And I now understand. I get it. And I personally think there wasn't enough. I want more. And so for a book that's already this chunky, with a sequel that's also this chunky, for me to want more from it, I think really speaks to the book. I absolutely loved it. I loved the characters. I loved the plot lines. If you do want to read this book, I would look up the trigger warnings for it, because depending on your situation, it can be very triggering for people. Like, I can fully understand how people would be, so I would definitely look that up if I were you and wanting to invest into this book. But basically, you have Shannon, who is like severely bullied throughout her entire childhood and her teen years, and it gets so bad to the point where she ends up moving school. At this new school, she reunites with her only friends from childhood, so you get to have them reunite and like become friends again, and that's really sweet to watch, and just have her finally like feel that comfort of a friendship and have that like those people to kind of like rely on and support. And then you also meet Johnny, who is a rugby player. He's really popular, and he has a soft spot for Shannon. I really don't know how more cliche you can get. You got lonely, bullied, short, tiny little girl moves to new school where giant rugby player, popular guy takes an interest. Like, very cliche, very basic, but I absolutely loved it. I devoured it. This was all I could think about while I was reading it. And every time I wasn't reading it, this was all I was thinking about. I still think about it now, and I read it in September. I absolutely love this book. I want to reread it already. I still have more in the series to read, but I want to read it because I just love Johnny and Shannon so much. Like, they're absolutely amazing. Love, love, love. The next book I finished in September is The Magician's Nephew by C.S. Lewis. Now, I did read this as part of like a reading vlog that I don't think I ever actually finished. I think I filmed all of it, I just never ended up getting to editing it. It is the first book in the Chronicles of Narnia, and it is like a childhood middle grade style book, so it's really easy. It's also really tiny, and my specific edition has like really big writing, so it was really good. I ended up finding a free audiobook of this on YouTube, and I was like only like 3 hours long, so really short book. I mainly read it because I bought the series. I bought them in individual books. I know you can get the Chronicles of Narnia in like one big book, but I didn't want that. I love the movies. The movies are very nostalgic for me, so I wanted to read the series. Yeah, basically this is just the prequel to The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. It's just how Narnia was created and founded and that whole story, and I think it's really interesting. I liked having a little bit more insight into it, and I'm excited to continue reading the rest of the series just for my own personal curiosity. I just want to know what actually happens in the books opposed to the movies, because I know with the movies they did skip 1 or 2 between some of them. I gave this one a 3 stars just because it's just a really short book. It's middle grade. I did enjoy it, but like it's nothing too revolutionary. Then the last book I finished for September was Keeping 13 by Chloe Walsh, because I was absolutely obsessed with Binding 13 and I needed more. So I read 2 chunky ass books and I still want more. Like, I need more. It's a need, not a want. I need more of them. This one was also a 4.5 stars. I absolutely loved it. The way the first book left off, I was like, I immediately started the second book because I genuinely could not wait. I could not wait to continue the series. I absolutely love it. I ended up listening to these ones as an audiobook as well, just because they are chunky. I also did get them on my Kindle. Like, when I physically read them, it was more on my Kindle because these are some chunky, heavy books. And like, trying to read at nighttime when you're trying to hold open a chunky book is a lot. It's a lot. Yeah, I really don't know how much more I can say because it is a sequel to Binding 13, but again, would highly recommend reading these books. Like, it's amazing. And if you're one of those people like, what could you possibly have to say with these chunky books? A lot. There's a lot to be said, and more needs to be said. Would I highly recommend, but also again, look up trigger warnings. Sorry for a bit of change, but I just had to go do something. Moving on to October, the first book I read was Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. This is the second book in the Rose Hill series, and you follow West in this book. You meet West in the first book as the friend of the main male character in that book, and this is the friend, and you follow him through his journey. And he also has 2 kids, so it's another single dad romance, which I'm kind of eating up at the moment. I do love a single dad romance. You follow Skylar, who is a famous country singer who escaped to Rose Hill to work with West's friend from the first book, because he's like a music producer. So she goes there to work with him, but meets West first and ends up living in his cottage. I don't even know. I ended up giving this book a 3.75 stars. I did like it, and I do love Elsie Silver's writing and her stories. Like, I've read the Chestnut Spring series, and then I've read the first and second book in this series. Those are the only 2 released at the moment, and I do like it. Like I've said, love her writing. I don't know, something about this book, I don't know if it was just me being in a slump or not, I'm not too sure, but I just couldn't fully get into it. Like, I loved it. I don't know how to describe it. Like, I really enjoyed it, but it just wasn't it for me. So I ended up giving it a 3.75. And if I'm being honest, other than like the very basics, I don't really remember too much about this book or reading this book. Yeah, I did really like it, and I'm going to continue the series when more books are released. The next book I read was One Dark Window by Rachel Gilling. I again read this book as a buddy read, and this is the first fantasy book I've read in a hot minute. I don't know why, I just haven't really been able to pick up a fantasy, and when I do, I either just can't get interested in it or invested, or I just don't really understand what's going on. So this was the first fantasy book I've read in a while, and buddy reading it really helped me like push through that first little bit of a fantasy book. I will say the first little bit was really confusing. Me and my friend, we just kind of kept laughing at some of the stuff that was being said, and like we were really confused, but after we got into it, it was good and we really enjoyed it. I did, however, give it a 3.5 stars just because I truly believe this is just because of my own slump that I've been in, because my friend really enjoyed it. Like, she absolutely devoured it, and I thought it was okay. Like, I was interested enough to continue, but I wasn't fully invested. I wasn't like, even the romance in there, I just wasn't really gripping onto it. So I think it's just genuinely a me problem. In this book, you follow this girl, and it was still a little confusing, but I know you've got like a deck of cards, and each card has a different power, and like you can tap into that power and tap out of the power. Because of this sickness the girl got when she was younger, she has like a special thing with the powers, and like when she touched a card, she like the magic just like soaked into her. So she has like this monster or being in the back of her mind that can like take over, and so you're like dealing with her and this monster, as well as the war and like the cards and everything going on with that. Like, it's a lot going on, so I kind of remember what happens, but like not too much. I think the writing was all right. Like, it's not the best writing because some things were really confusing. Something was said, so I would assume one thing, and then it was like contradicted a little bit later, and then I'd get really confused. There's just that with the writing. I don't know if I'm going to continue the series. I know there's a second book, I don't think I will. Then the last book I read in October was Sunlight by Devony Perry. This is the second book in the series. The first one is Crossroads that I read earlier this year. I absolutely love this series. Devony Perry has become like, I wouldn't say like favorite, but like one of my top read authors. Like, I really like everything she's done. Her stories and her books are really easy to read, really easy to understand, and it doesn't really take a lot of brain power, and I love that. I'm not saying that in a bad way, like, not at all. I absolutely love the fact that it's really easy to read. This book has one of the tropes that I randomly have really liked. I don't want to say anything because it doesn't really come into play until about halfway into the book, so there's that. But I absolutely love this trope at the moment. I know a lot of people don't like it. A lot of people do not like this trope, but I am starting to really like it. So Sunlight is a part of the Haven River Ranch series. I forgot what the series name was called. And I know this series, like the first book, Crossroads, and this one you can get free on Kindle Unlimited, and then if you get it on Kindle Unlimited, you can also, it transfers onto your Audible account if you have one, so you can listen to it free on Audible, but you have to get the Kindle version first. Otherwise, if you search it up on Audible, you have to pay for it, which I don't know how that makes sense, but little hack for you. So in Sunlight, you follow the main female character as she moves to the small town to work at Haven River Ranch, as it offers more pay and just a little escape for her, where she runs into Jax, the owner of the Haven River Ranch. But when they first meet, she does not know that, and they have a very flirty encounter, and then once she finds out that he works there, she kind of backs off because she realizes that's her boss. He doesn't know. And then when they do finally meet at work, they have this like flirty, tension-filled like relationship where like they want to but they can't. Well, she wants to and won't, and he just wants to, and it's a very fun dynamic. I absolutely loved it. I really love the setting at the Haven River Ranch, like just the ranch and the found family within this book. I absolutely loved anything that has anything to do with a found family. I eat up and devour every single time. I absolutely love this. I don't know if I said this, but I gave it a 4.5 stars. Those are all the books I've read in September and October. I unfortunately can't do a November TBR cart because my TBR cart is currently empty and packed away in boxes. So I unfortunately can't do that. So that one, don't know when I'm going to be able to do another one of those, because my situation is very unknown. A lot of things are unknown with this move. That is today's video. Hope you liked it. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.